What's up, coin traders? Thanks for joining me. I know it's been a little bit, but just wanted to do a quick little video on AVAX, Avalanche AVAX on that ticker, especially because we're seeing a little bit of a breakout right now after crossing a pretty big resistance line at 41.11. If you do like these type of shorter update videos, definitely let me know down in the comment sections below. I think I might be doing a little bit more of the shorter update type stuff on these shorter terms. So right now we are on the 1 hour chart. And if you have been following me over here on Twitter or X, definitely drop me a follow if you're not following me yet at Quinn_trades. We do post a lot of updates since I know it has been a little bit, but definitely post a lot more over here on Twitter or X, so stay updated over there. And do look forward to engaging and interacting with everyone over on Twitter or X. But anyway, right now, back to the chart. So we were looking at this very big resistance point at 39.62, so just below the $40 level. And after having a very nice big breakout, the thing about this was several things. And notably, as you can see, a very big downtrend line that did actually break. So that in combination with this horizontal price level resistance was a very big and good sign, especially when we have a lot of these supports of the 50-period exponential moving average holding as support. So especially now, we had a rally. We kicked off of resistance from the 41.11, which is normal. Back tested this horizontal price level support, again tested this resistance point, and then finally broke through, back tested the trend line, as well as the support level of this 50-period EMA. And now finally, we're seeing a very nice break and close on top of this 41.11 price level. And despite having a little bit more of an upside wick up overhead, we are looking at a pretty nice hourly candle coming in. So with 45 minutes left on the current little one right here, we should be seeing a little bit more upside, but also we are going to have a lot more resistance points up overhead. So if we talk about resistance points overhead, we're going to have an actual price level resistance coming in at 41.53, but we did break that for several attempts. But as you can see, the wicks on both of these candles could maintain a close on top of that level. And so looking all the way left to this trend high, when we topped out at a high of 43.28, you can see that on this pullback, we did kick off of this level at 41.53. So we know that this is going to be a very relevant level since it has been a big zone that we've been unable to break on all these last several attempts after we broke it from support. So now one thing to be mindful of is that if we actually switch out to the longer chart, so let's switch into the daily, for example, we've just been seeing nothing but straight upside, and especially having the volume this whole time to actually back it, especially zooming out, you can see how minimal this AVAX volume has been. So to see such volume here lately has definitely been a sign and the reason why we've seen just so much upside continuation. So as long as this type of volume does start to continue, or does continue, we will still see prices rally up, but we also need to be aware of that we are getting overextended and we haven't had a significant period of a pullback and a retracement to test some of these supports yet. So the risk of a pullback does start to increase. So when we actually look at the shorter term charts, like on the 1 hour, we're looking good, but we do need to be mindful that any type of break of this pattern is likely going to mean a top coming in, and then we are going to experience a little bit more longer term pullback and flip to a shorter term downtrend for a pullback for this longer uptrend, because we can't have a continuous constant up without eventually at some point an inevitable retrace and sell-off and correction. So that's why if you are looking to make short-term trades, as we've been talking about over on Twitter and X, definitely not a bad time to be doing so, since short-term we do still have momentum and hype and a lot of that volume coming in. But just like we said, we are going to need to be aware and mindful that at some point we are going to need to be seeing across the rest of the crypto space, not just for AVAX, a pullback and retracement for the whole crypto space. Right now, though, AVAX is definitely one of the stronger names in the crypto space. So that's why we've been liking looking at the shorter-term patterns and setups right now. So let's flip into the weekly here and talk about some upside targets, because we actually could be looking at a few, and notably the first one we're going to get to is 51.37. So if we go ahead and zoom in and look at a price gain from that, from current prices up to 51.37, would be about, we'll just call it a 25% rally, up to the next one at 56.21, which is where we saw closing support come in for the weekly, about a 35% gain. So those are our upside targets, and it's definitely possible that we could see a continued rally to those targets before seeing any sort of increased significant pullback and retracement across the weekly chart here for AVAX. So again, because on this retracement we had such a flush that just broke below these levels, we're actually now seeing this point be the last known support before we had this massive flush. So that's why we do have it as a big target for the next point of upside resistance before retracement could potentially come in. That's obviously extremely speculative, and that's not saying we're going to shoot up to those levels before we see a retracement, but we know that that is definitely a possible scenario, especially given all of this weekly volume coming in on this chart here. So if we look at weekly volume, we've just been seeing massive amounts of huge increasing bullish weekly volume, especially now that we're starting to get a bullish flip, not even just yet on these weekly exponential moving averages. Looking at the 4-hour chart here really quick before we go ahead and wrap up, and let's talk about this consolidation pattern here, especially because we have bounced off the 12 period and then now the 26 first and then the 12 period before now finally finding a potential for a nice little breakout here. So if we do want to talk about targets, this being a little bit longer of a consolidation pattern, and we look at this as more of a flag type pull, then we could look at the extension of this as being our upside target. So if we do in fact see that, then that could push us up to about 62, which would be on the upper end of that nice little weekly resistance point that we talked about earlier. And more realistically, if we look from where we kicked off initially, the 12 period EMA up to the high, that's probably what we're going to see more as a target, especially being oversold on the longer levels. That does still put us right past this $56 level, which would be right at that target that we mentioned for our weekly resistance points. So looking at prices up to that, yeah, about 35%. So that's going to be our upside target right now before I would actually expect a little bit more of a serious type sell-off. Because when we enter longer term consolidations like we're seeing right now, let's go ahead and actually adjust this back down. So when we see longer consolidations like what we're seeing right now, come on computer, where we have a sell-off and we go into a tightening range here, this type of pattern doesn't lead to an instant correction unless some type of catalyst happens across the rest of the crypto space. So typically we know that if we can break out of this, when we do have consolidation, that's going to be a very nice point to at least confirm another upside move and then be that supportive point on the way down. And that's why on the channel, we always talk about these types of patterns and setups being so good and so needed in strong, longer markets. And so especially on this type of consolidation move, we did see a decrease in all volume. And especially now we are starting to get a little bit of a breakout with a little bit more of that volume spike, especially after back testing these resistance or the support points rather for this 12 period EMA. Now looking very nice to run up and test and break a lot of these price resistance. First, we're looking at a close on the 4-hour of 41.97, so effectively the $42 level, and then running up to just below the 44 at a high of 43.28. So like we said, all momentum is with the bulls right now on the shorter term for the 1-hour and 4-hour, but we do need to be mindful on the longer terms that we are overextended. But right now I can see a very strong case for actually being able to run up, test some of these upside resistance points prior to fully breaking out of this consolidation pattern. So if that happens, run up test of this resistance at 42 to 43, probably pulling back, testing 41.25 or so as that support point before finally breaking out and seeing a very nice run up to those $50 and $56 targets like we talked about for resistance on the weekly. So those are our thoughts coming into the weekend here. Would love to know everyone's thoughts and also how you enjoy this shorter type of update rather than a longer term analysis for a lot of these cryptos. Definitely let me know in the comment sections below. Thanks again for watching. Appreciate all the love and support. Make sure to hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you have not done so just yet. Stay tuned. Take care, everyone, and I will catch you back in the next video.